challenge. We desire his resignation, not his input.
Students at Ithaca College in New York yesterday during a staged walkout calling for the resignation of the college president amidst reports of racial insensitivity. These protests flaring up across the country today, a so-called million student march. So what's going on campuses from coast to coast? For more, let's welcome in our panel. Both gentlemen join us from Newsmax, New York. First up, Tim Jones, the Director of Political Communications for First Rule, also the former Speaker of the Missouri House of Representatives. And joining us as well, Rick Ungar, Senior Political Contributor for Forbes.com. We welcome you both. Tim, what on earth is going on out there?
It's a real, this has been shocking to many of us, Congressman. And, it seems that after decades of incubation, the eggs of political correctness and entitlement have hatched, and the chickens have come home to roost. And the universities which have preached this sort of left-wing radicalism for many decades at Mizzou and other public university campuses, it's a bit of poetic justice being handed back at them, and they don't know how to handle it.
Rick Ungar, not only are you the senior political commentator at Forbes.com, you have seen different cycles on college campuses. What's your take on what's happening?
Basically, at its heart, with some exceptions of some of the things that I've seen, this is completely healthy. I did live this once before, back in the late 60s, and protest is as American as apple pie. It's a good thing. Now, we can get into the specifics. I have some questions about the decisions made in Missouri. We used to call for our college presidents to be fired, too, but we never actually thought it could happen. Again, we got to look at that and look at the decisions made. And we also have to do a better job of looking into whether or not there's a basis and a reasonable basis to what the kids are complaining about.
Well, and that's the key, reasonableness. I got to show you something that happened at Yale.
We should be happy to see them protesting.
Well, protests are one thing. But peace, it doesn't look like these things are really peaceable anymore, or that there's tolerance for the other side. For example, we've got viral video, Yale students encircling and shouting down a professor after the professor's wife sent an email requesting that students practice tolerance if they're offended by Halloween costumes. I want you to listen to this exchange.
For all students, stay quiet! For all standing students. You understand that? As your position as master, it is your job to create a place of comfort and home for the students that live in Silliman. You have not done that. By sending out that email, that goes against your position as master. Do you understand that? Then
no, I don't agree with that.
Then why the did you accept the position?
Because
who
I have
hired you?
I have a different
You
vision.
should step down. If that is what you think about being a master, you should step down.
Wow. Rick, we hear that, and has the age of entitlement bred this notion that students on campus are so fragile they can't cope with their own emotions?
No, I mean, that's like me asking, should I condemn the entire Tea Party because in some rallies we saw 1, 2, 3 people behaving badly when everybody else was behaving perfectly, as they should. You don't condemn an entire movement or what a bunch of people are doing because you got a few idiots in the crowd. No, they shouldn't be behaving that way. But I seriously doubt that those kids who were behaving that way speaks for everybody who might agree with their point of view on some things. Let's not make that mistake. That's not a good road to go down to on either side.
All right. Well, Tim, I have to ask you, Ben Carson has been asked about this. He says the level of intolerance on college campuses for things that are not so-called politically correct is growing, and in fact, it is threatening the nation's ability to discuss issues. The irony is, you think back to the 60s, there was supposedly free speech movement on the Berkeley campus that dealt with free speech. Are these kids talking about free speech or just their speech?
Well, JD, you've hit the nail on the head there. The ironies are they're abounding. They're out of control. I mean, back at Mizzou, again, you had a communications professor verbally assaulting a journalist here at one of the nation's top journalism schools. So everything is just upside down and just the wrong way. This so-called movement, by the way, they seem to have invented their own new constitutional right, the right not to be offended. and this thin-skinned attitude where the only allowable free speech they want is from their point of view. And we can't have 18 and 20-year-olds running college campuses. It's the adults have just shirked all responsibility at Mizzou, in our opinion. I think the donors and the alumni are going to be the silent majority. They're going to end up being outraged about all this.
And we will have to leave it there. Gentlemen, you have our thanks. Newsmax TV has an exclusive interview with Bill O'Reilly tonight at 10. Bill talks about his book and his feud with George Will. And he has some pretty tough words for Mr. Will. That's tonight during the Steve Malzberg Show, so make sure you tune in. 10 o'clock in the East, 7 o'clock Pacific Time.